escape engineer's inspector summary video. We're here in Lowell. And what we have here is a fire escape that I estimate to be between 15 to 25 years old in fabrication. Fairly new style grading, fairly new style treads, construction, legs to the ground. And again, I'd say this is probably, I estimate this to be in the 25-year-old range, but not much older than that. So with that, I'm pretty sure that doesn't have any lead issues on this fire escape. It's not older than 1978. So let's go over a couple of things that need to be done. Fire escape does not pass the initial examination, so we cannot proceed to a load test. We cannot proceed to a certification at this time. But I'll go over exactly what some of the issues are and what needs to be done, and to discuss this information with a city official, and he will determine a couple of things. One is if this fire escape can be just spot repaired, and then issue a opinion letter with a disclaimer. If they want it spot repaired and they want you to load test it, or they want you to provide them other evidence of strength, such as a refurbishment of some kind at this time, to avoid the load test for the foreseeable future, and providing them other evidence of strength. So let's start off with what we have here. First of all, the whole fire escape, new grading, again, 25-year-old, but the new style of grading needs a paint job. The whole 100% of this fire escape needs a paint job. It's pretty rusty. It looks like it hasn't had paint in at least 10 years because that's how long it takes for the paint. And if you look at the treads, there's an example. The upper treads there have some paint still left on them, but the lower treads are starting to have no paint on them. So that's the natural process. Okay. The grading has an angle clip that is there all the way to the end, and an angle clip all the way here. And in those angle clips, when you look down, and I have photographic evidence, it shows that there's rust inside that clip. Okay, so that means that this entire grading has to be lifted. All that rust has to be removed, and I'll show it from underneath. Then you need to rebolt it. Can't weld it back in. If you are going to weld it, you need a fire detail to do that, and then you bolt it back, and basically you seal it with silicone so water doesn't get back in here or in here once you remove 100% of the rust. So rebolting and silicone shutting. You also have up against the building a lot of cracks and crevices. That should be sealed so that you don't get any freezing thaw pushing this away from your building. All your railings are in good order. They're all welded to a certain degree, and all welds need to be x-rayed or load tested. So a lot of times on these posts, as long as you make a mechanical connection down there, keep your weld mechanically fastened, seal that so the water, because water gets in and rots these welds from the inside out. So a lot of times it's just basically securing the posts, and the bars, even though they're welded, they can stay. It's great that they're punched through the channel down below and welded underneath, which is great, but they're welded here. But these are called minor structural. The minor structural just needs to be verified visually and with a small hammer test. But otherwise, they're not required to be load tested or x-rayed, but you do need to verify that they're in good order. But corner posts need to load test or x-ray the welds. So what you do is you turn it into mechanical connections, and you don't have to load test this fire escape. And this fire escape can be load tested. After we do some spot repairs, we can load test. But let's just talk about what kind of poundage we have. We have about 4 feet going across here. We have about 20 feet going there. That's 20 times 4, that's 80. They need about 8,000 pounds of sand over here. Because at 80 times 100 is 8,000 pounds of sand for 30 minutes on top of here to basically pass the load test. So a lot of times load test is not the best thing to do. Very costly, doesn't buy any bolts, doesn't buy any paint. And we highly recommend that you go towards refurbishments in order to satisfy the other evidence of strength, and use that load test money towards keeping it maintained. Okay, we got debris on this fire escape. Things that are here can't have any blockage, so if anybody was trying to get out here, this chair can't be here. We've got attachments here. Some people have put maybe, I don't know, sometimes they'll put satellite dishes and such. Okay, so there's a shelf angle over here also. And that shelf angle holds this grading that goes from here to there, and that's full of rust. Let me just zoom in there. And you can see all the rust inside there. So all that's got to be cleaned out, then rebolted, and then sealed from above so water doesn't get back in there anymore. The railing has the same issues. At these postings here, And there you have to make some mechanical connection at the bottom to reinforce that weld. Otherwise we have to x-ray or load test that weld. A lot of times when you're concerned about this weld here, again, you can x-ray or load test it, or sometimes with a simple angle in this corner here, simple angle, and you bolt it this way, and you bolt it this way, you've basically just nullified the need to verify that welded joint connection there. Most fire escapes, like for over there, for example, older, you'll see that 98% of that fire escape is bolted connection. Every connection is a bolt. So it's easier to change that. Whenever you have a welded fire escape, now you have to either x-ray or load test these welded connections. So again, the fire escape is probably about 25 years old. Let's go down the set of stairs. Again, new stair construction. You've got some water getting through, but basically not only did they bolt this fire escape, they welded a couple of welds on top here, but the bolt is doing the major job. So this welded joint connection, I need to x-ray it or load test it, or as soon as I put in a clip in here, you put an angle clip here, bolt it this way with half-inch bolts, seal this up with silicone to stop this. I don't need to load test this anymore. The reinforcement of this basically nullifies the need for a load test. Same thing applies to the other side. So whenever there's a weld that's in question, what you do is you make it into a mechanically bolted connection, keep your weld, there is no load test. Okay, it's going down, all the treads have the same issue. I'll show you some of these treads from underneath. So railings, as we talked above. Now let's talk about here. See? Welded connections, that water's getting in here and they're starting to rot out this weld from the inside out. As soon as I put a gusset plate in here, bolt it here, and bolt it through here, there's no need. I will silicone shut this whole thing so that way we're managing the connection from water intrusion, and we're using bolts now. Keep your welds, and now I don't have to x-ray or load test this connection because I've reinforced it with a bolt, and that avoids the load test. Same thing up there, same thing up here. It already has a bolt, so even though that's welded, see that bolt up there? Even though it's a welded connection, they bolted it, I don't need to verify that, other than to say there's no rust in its connection. But that one has no bolt, but it's welded. Okay, we have the same problem here. We have to seal this all up. All this needs to be sealed up, and this entire platform here has an angle, and there's an angle on that side, and again, it too is full of rust. This angle right here is full of rust, and it's full of rust like that. Let me zoom in and show you from underneath what it looks like. Let me zoom in and show you from underneath what it looks like. That's all the rust on the upstairs platform, up against the wall. And it's the entire length. So every shelf angle is full of rust. Okay? See? 100% full of rust and welded. So we have to break all those welds. Now, the same thing is happening on the other side. Full of rust. See? This is the other side. So that's the only thing holding that grating up there. So that whole grating up above and down below is suspect. Okay? So it needs a full paint job. Reinforce all your welded connections. You know, things as simple as this. You know, we got one side bolted, one side welded. Now I have to load test or x-ray that corner. But as soon as I put a bolt on the opposite right side there's no need. I can keep that weld, and I've provided the city with other evidence of strength. See these bolts into the building? I need to basically make sure no water is coming in from above. So whenever you have cracked areas like this, water's going to get in. So I got to seal this up against this uneven building. It needs to be sealed to stop the water from getting in there and causing issues in areas where people are concerned. Again, full paint job. The fire escape has been rotting, rusting away for many, many years because you still got some of the old paint here. And again, the full length. This needs about 8,000 pounds plus of sand to basically load test. This whole area, this whole area here needs to be closed. This whole area over here is got an angle clip. And just like up above, see all that rust? That all needs to be cleaned out of the rust and then rebolted back into position to avoid the load test. Okay, so the fire escape, it actually repeats itself. A lot of your welded connections, as soon as you make them into mechanical connections with bolts, there's no load test. Mechanical, mechanical. Okay, and this staircase is going there. So as you look from below, even though they're welded from up, they've got new bolts from underneath. But these bolts are about 25 years old. We'll get the actual age on this fire escape to determine whether or not it's at that time where these bolts need to be changed out to avoid the load test. But they've also welded it from above. But the bolt is the primary, the weld is the secondary on this. So 100% of all these treads need to be painted, and from below, and it just repeats itself from our conversation up here. Welded connections need to be turned into mechanical connections to avoid the x-ray or the load test. This is all welded, but look, as soon as they popped in that bolt, they eliminated my concern about this weld over there. Okay, going down. You have a question for me? Okay, just listen. Yeah. So we got some water penetrating from above. The only area I found that's concerned is probably going to be those smaller treads down there that water really got in there. But this is what we're trying to avoid. All of these need to be sealed from above. See that water just getting in there? And that little gap is almost a 16th now, but that's going to become an 1/8, a quarter over time. So once you get all these cleaned out, we need to seal this with silicone to stop the water from getting in there through freeze and thaw. The footings look like they're in good order. They're sitting on good sono tubes. Good connections into the corner. They're welded and bolted, which is great. Again, this whole shelf has got rust inside, debris and dirt. Look at all that debris. Look at all that dirt getting in there and just growing rust. What kind of rust? That kind of rust. Got it? So that's making all these platforms suspect. So we need to get in there and remove all that rust and then rebolt that shelf angle back and then put bolts on it, and that's both sides. Okay? Rust. So just a typical fire escape that because nobody sealed it from above, water got in there and it's doing its job, and that's creating rust. Look at that platform, see? Rust. Okay? Now, getting into the treads over here, because it's always cold, always damp over here. Somebody is smoking over here. But, see? Rust getting in there. Rust is growing better because this area stays wetter longer. So this is an area that, you know, needs to be cleaned, then siliconed. But otherwise, you know, the into the ground, it's in pretty good order. You know, water is getting through, and it's going to start doing this. See, this is an indication that water is getting in from above. And now what happens is as the bolts get rusty, these become suspect. So a lot of times you have to change out all these bolts. So this is one of those that not only does it need a paint job, but it does need the bolts to be load tested, or they need to be x-rayed, because a lot of times you get square head bolts here. Okay, found this footings in good order. So you need a bolt there, you need to put a bolt there. This is only to avoid the load test. You need to make this mechanical connection here so that I don't have to load test or x-ray this weld. As soon as I make this with a clip here or something that basically bolts this back to here, and I avoid the load test. Okay? Otherwise, the fire escape is in, I'd say, the fair to poor order, meaning it's in, a lot of it is a new fire escape, but it's primarily all the platforms that have all that rust growth inside them. So again, here's some of the options that you have with the city official. He's going to want you to mainly spot repair this fire escape and fully paint the fire escape. That's a requirement. Whether he wants a permit or not, it needs to be discussed with the official of record associated with this. The other question is whether or not he wants engineer oversight. A lot of times when you have a building of this type and you have over 35,000 cubic square feet, it does trigger the requirement that it's got to be controlled. It's a controlled document, construction control document. So you do need either a registered architect or a registered engineer to sign the preliminary affidavit of control. So we'll discuss that with a city official. Sometimes city officials want this to have an engineer at the end sign off on this. Sometimes they want it without a permit. It all depends on the size and complexity of each fire escape that we're doing, and the city official really has a say on this. The next step is that you go to a meeting with a city official, either at his office with this report or a meeting here at this site for him to decide what he wants to do next. But it could be spot repair and then sign off with an opinion letter certificate with disclaimers of liability. That could be one option that he might choose. The second option is that he wants you to spot repair this fire escape and then load test it. And again, 8,000 to 8,000 pounds is the average pound that you're going to be working with, and including all the stairs need to be weight 200 pounds to 300 pounds per stair. Will be load tested on this, so it's probably a full day event. The next thing that's involved that he may say, he may want you to, or he could offer it that you refurbish all the connections, all the welded connections, change all the bolts on the stairs, for example, and basically there is no load test because you've provided him with the refurbishment or other evidence of strength to avoid the load test. And I think that's where this fire escape is at. This is probably one that all these bolts should be changed out on the treads because it's going to be easy. Silicone shut everything accordingly. 100% of all the gratings need to be, the shelf angle clip needs to be rebolted, cleansed, sealed, and then put back. 100% paint job, and this thing will easily pass a certification using refurbishment to avoid the load test. But this next step does definitely need to proceed. So since it did not pass the initial examination, she will now need to go to the next level, and the city official will have to give us guidance on that, whether or not engineer oversight is going to be required. And for that, that's the next phase of our conversation with our client. 866-649-0333, 866-649-0333. Inspector Meneses here from Fire Escape Engineers. If you have any questions, 866-649-0333.